everybody. So today we're going to, before we start chapter 32, we're going to review. So you're going to hear a little bit. We're going to go through everything we learned so far, okay? So there's chapter 1 to 8, okay? Chapter 1 to 8. Who remembers what we learned in chapter 1 to 8? Review of 2 so that we can understand where we are. Chapter 1 to 8 is how we are composed, the spiritual composition of a Jewish person. The two neshamais, our animal soul, our godly soul, the way our brain are the three moach, how do we call the three levels of the brain? Chachma, Bina, Das. That you need those three things in order to create the emotions, the 7 emotions. So there's 3 mothers and of intelligence, tu comprends? Et 7 emotions, 10 sphirotes en tout. Et ça, c'est comment notre neshama est construit, de 3 intellectuels et 7 émotionnels.
C'est quoi les 3 intellectuels? Alors,
Chachma, c'est la première idée. Non, c'est pas la sagesse. Je veux pas traduire. C'est très difficile à traduire parce que si j'ai pas les bons mots. Mais c'est la première idée. C'est comme l'idée, le spark. Bina, c'est quand tu prends cette idée et tu la développes. Et Dad, c'est quand tu prends cette idée développée et tu la ramènes en action. Alors Dad, c'est toujours relié à action. Ok? Et à travers ces trois niveaux de cognitive, comment on dit cognitive, cognitive, tu peux créer des émotions. Mais pour créer des émotions, c'est très difficile. Très, très difficile. Le Tanya nous dit, don't even try. You know, you're inborn with your impulses and your natural emotion. In order to create an emotion is very difficult. What you could do? Why can't we create an emotion? Because it's a very difficult job. You have to really be able to take a new idea. The emotions you have are not going to be new. They're going to be emotions that are, you know, from your animal soul, that are des attirances, des, like impulses, but to create an emotion is very hard. The only thing, or to change an emotion also. Like certain people are always going to be attracted to certain things, and all according to your nature and nurture.
What about meditation?
Meditation. So through meditation, someone who really knows how to meditate could create an emotion, but it's very, very difficult. What we can do, again, in these 8 chapters, we have the 3 clothing of the souls. Okay, so there's how the soul is composed of, which is Chachma, Bina, Das, and the 7 emotions. I'm not going to go through them now. And then there's the clothing. The clothing is thought, speech, and action. Those 3 things are the only thing we can control. 9 to 17. Chapter 9 to 17 goes through the war. There's a constant battle. So for you, for a human being to say, or specifically Jewish person, to say that they have a peaceful day every day, they have no challenges, there's something wrong with you. It's normal. It is normal to have a constant battle. It's your animalistic soul and your godly soul constantly fighting over to control your body. And one cannot live with the other. So either one is going to be controlling and putting the other one down, or the other one is going to be controlling and putting the other one down. Tzaddikim have no evil inclination, so they're completely controlled with their godly soul. And then there's the Reshaim, which is all of us. We're evil, but evil, not the same term as you see evil, just evil as in we're self-oriented, selfish. Our animal soul takes us over, and we're able to fight it and eventually become a Benoni. A Benoni is someone who's able to control that animal soul through his thought, speech, and action, but he still has the animal soul within him. So this is 19 to 17. 18 to 25 talks about revealing that inner love. How a Benoni, through his constant battle, through fighting, he could, because we said it's very hard to create an emotion, right? To love God, if you're controlled by your animal soul, is not natural. It is not natural. It's going to be very hard to create that love. The Tanya gives you tools of how you can control your animal soul and even create a love towards God, okay? And it's chapter 18 to 25. It talks about, I can't even read. Anyways, we learned all that. I don't want to go too much in details. Yeah, je l'avais en PDF. Then chapter 26 to 32 talks about fighting depression. Because after a person, specifically a Benoni, who really his whole life mission is to be connected to God, is constantly to be united and to make this world a better place through Torah and mitzvot. And he's fighting every day, but he's not able to remove his evil inclination. He's not able to remove that. And we went through the chapters to explain to the different kind of sadness that can come to that person through sadness, through parnasa, sadness through feeling bad about yourself, sadness through past guilt, and how the main thing is that understanding that this battle is what God wants from us. He wants us to battle. It's normal to battle. And by understanding that every time we battle, we bring a little bit more light into this world and we make this world a better place, this should bring us more joy. And also we learned how through the pain that there's two sadness, the sadness that brings you down, that's not good. And there's a sadness that is bitter, that makes you feel so bitter that you want to make a change. That sadness is the sadness that can bring you through true joy. And you need to feel it in order to experience true joy. Now, chapter 32 is different. Originally, when the Tanya was written, it was written in manuscripts, okay? Because the Alter Rebbe would like give over his talks and his students would write it, and they just had like pamphlets, manuscripts, and he didn't want to make a book in the beginning because he knew that there was people who opposed him and he was scared that they're going to like change the book and like do, you know, so he would never, he didn't print a book. Once the book was printed, once they finally said to print a book, he added chapter 32. Chapter 32 in Hebrew is Lamed Bet.
Lev.
Lev. It is the heart of the Tanya. It is the heart. Chapter 32 is the heart of the Tanya. Okay? Not only is it the heart of the Tanya, it also talks about the heart. It talks about loving a fellow Jew. Now, even if it's not really, you see in this is Rabbi Sheist, how he made this map. This is a map of the Tanya. And he went, after learning the whole Tanya, he saw how there's like a pattern and he divided it and he realized that chapter 32 doesn't really fit in the pattern. That's why it's like kind of red over here. But it's still connected. It's still connected to the chapter before, but it doesn't really follow a pattern. So we're going to look inside. You guys can share chapter 32. I just realized. J'ai ramené le mauvais livre. Je viens de réaliser celui-là, il a même pas. Oh no, 33 it has. Okay, 31. No, this is divided in a few books. Okay, 32. Alors tu peux lire avec, tu peux partager avec.
Marie.
Ah, et Léa, tu veux partager avec Julie? I have on the computer.
Toi aussi?
C'est en hébreu et en anglais. Cheryl, you have the book? Okay. So, je vais lire et je vais expliquer. But tu peux le lire.
Non, si vous voulez que je le lise en hébreu.
Ça, c'est qui?
Ouais, tu vas le lire en hébreu.
Oui, je vais lire.
Alors.
Ok, Vehine, on va lire même si on ne comprend pas tout de suite. Après, je vais expliquer, ok?
Ouais.
You have it, Cheryl?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Vehine al yidei kiyum hadvarim haniskarim la'el li'ez gufa nivze v'nimas beinav rak simchasa tiyeh simchasa nefel levada. Acting on the advice mentioned above, to view one's body with scorn and contempt and to find joy in the joy of the soul alone, harei zo derech yeshara v'kala lavo lidei kiyum mitzvahs v'ahavta l'reach hakamocha l'chol nefesh mi'Yisrael l'migadal v'yad katan. is a direct and easy path towards fulfilling the mitzvah. You shall love your fellow as yourself, with regard to every Jew, both great and small. Ki me'acha shegufo nimas umesoav etzlo v'nefesh v'ruach mi yodea gedulasam umalasam b'shasham umikaram belokim chayim. Since his body is despised and loathsome, as for the soul and spirit, who can know their greatness and excellence in their source and root, the living God? B'shegam shekulam mis'imais ve'av echad lekulana. Furthermore, they are actually all equal. They all have one Father. V'lachen nikru kol Yisrael achim mamash mitzat shosh nafsham ba'Hashem echad. It is on account of this common root in the one God that all of Israel are called brothers in the full sense of the word. Rak shagufim mechulakim. Only the bodies are distinct from each other. Okay, we're going to stop right there, and I'm going to explain what we read.
C'est beaucoup de contenu déjà.
So, qu'est-ce que ça dit? Ça dit maintenant qu'on a compris qu'il faut vraiment se sentir un peu mal. Comme tu te rappelles, tu as dit c'est un peu dur de se rabaisser un peu pour retrouver la joie. So, c'est pas vraiment se rabaisser. It's putting down your evil. It's understanding that your evil is just there to stop you from connecting to God. Your evil is just there from being godly, from connecting to your godly soul. And once you put it down a little bit and you try to break through in order to connect to your godly soul, this is how you can experience the mitzvah of ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Why? What is that pasuk? Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. And you should love the other like oneself. By understanding and connecting who you are, by identifying to your true self, you can love every single Jew, okay? Obviously, we have to respect the whole world, but this is talking about the mitzvah of ve'ahavta right now. And why, we'll understand why, okay? So how can the Torah expect us to love everyone? It's very hard to love everyone, and plus like ourselves. The Tanya tells us.
What if you don't like yourself?
What if you don't like yourself? Exactly. So that's a problem. If you don't like yourself, you can't like others. So what does the Tanya teach us? It teaches us that when you disconnect from your identity of body, when you don't see yourself as a body, but you see yourself as a soul, when you connect to your godly soul, that means any other relationship that you will connect to is not going to be through the body that stops you from seeing the real person, but through the soul. When you connect to your soul, really the Jewish people has one soul that was shined into different body. So a person who connects to their body, who only identifies with their body, with their animal soul, will see people and see differences constantly because they look different, they have different things, they think differently, they have different taste. And they won't be able to love, truly love unconditionally. In your same, not sometimes, especially in the closer you are, the harder it is because you really compare and you're like, oh, it's not fair. Why this? And il y a beaucoup de jalousie dans les familles for sure. So, but that's when you identify as a soul, as a body. The minute you identify as a body, you see differences. Your love, you could love, but it's going to be conditional love. It's going to be love that's based on something. I'm going to love them because I have something. I can get something from them.
Est-ce qu'il y a des gens qui peuvent l'être directement? Parce que là, on étudie quelque chose. On n'est pas des petites filles, on n'est pas des enfants. Est-ce que les enfants, eux, ils ont ça des petits? Est-ce qu'ils l'ont ou est-ce qu'ils ne l'ont pas du tout? Est-ce qu'il faut grandir? Est-ce qu'il faut réfléchir à
non,
ça?
Est-ce qu'un enfant, d'abord, un enfant n'est pas connecté. Ça dit qu'un enfant est né wild animal. OK? Et le truc, c'est que d'abord, c'est ça l'éducation. Il faut éduquer l'enfant. Mais aussi, il faut savoir que l'enfant, avant bar mitzvah, il n'a pas vraiment le yetzer hara et le yetzer tov. Alors, un enfant, c'est pur. Dès que la bar mitzvah, c'est quoi tout le truc de la bar et bat mitzvah? C'est quand vraiment cette bagarre, elle commence. C'est ce challenge. Alors, si tu l'as donné une base il va savoir comment deal with. Mais si tu vas pas donner une base, il va pas savoir comment deal avec ce challenge. Alors non, ça vient pas naturellement. Il faut étudier, mais un enfant, avant Bhagavad Gita, il est pur. Il est pas.
Après les adultes, je parle même des adultes.
Que quoi?
C'est quelque chose de très difficile.
C'est très difficile.
Parce qu'on peut aimer les gens en général, mais là on parle d'aimer les gens comme on s'aime soi-même. On est bien d'accord.
Mais ça
veut dire quoi? Est-ce qu'il l'explique?
So what is soi-même? Soi-même is
aimer selon la Tanya. C'est quoi?
So this is what.
Donner, est-ce que c'est aider?
So no. So loving after it doesn't explain the term loving, but right now I think it's talking about the emotion of loving. It's talking about the love, the real true love of that you're just like, and it gives the example, just like a knife, you're cutting with a knife, right? And you cut your finger by mistake.
Yeah.
Are you going to start screaming at your other hand for cutting you? No, because you understand that it's all part of the same body. Your body is not going to fight a part of yourself for doing something wrong. So too, if you're able to connect your soul, you're able to see that every single person has the same, every single Jewish person has the same soul, comes from the same soul, and you cannot hate them, and you cannot rebuke them, and you cannot, you have to love them because it's part of the same body. It's a work to do. How do you do that work?
Yeah.
By connecting to your godly identity.
Meditation. That's the way I say it. For me, it works. Pour moi, ça travaille. Méditation. On prend exemple de toutes les Nachman. Et ils vont méditer à la forêt chaque jour.
Il boit des doutes.
Yeah.
Il boit des doutes. OK. Et ça l'aide beaucoup. Et ça, ils se rendent dedans.
C'est sûr, mais est-ce que ça va leur aider pour 1 heure, pour 2 heures, pour 3 heures, pour le reste de leur semaine?
Et ils le font chaque jour.
Ça, c'est un travail qui est constant.
C'est un travail qui
Mais ça va pas changer.
Mais quand on prie le matin, on
Non,
fait la même
So
chose.
let me tell you a story.
C'est quelque chose qui nécessite un travail. C'est pas
C'est un
naturel.
travail.
C'est pas
Est-ce que tu te
naturel.
dis, attends, est-ce que je suis une bonne personne? Est-ce que je suis pas une bonne personne? Est-ce que
Ben, c'est ça le Tanya.
tu fais des
Ça
choses.
va être
Après,
mon
tu
fait.
peux avoir des choses envers des personnes qui te conviennent pas, mais c'est pas pour autant que tu vas les détester.
So can I say a story? We have, ça parle de tout ça. Ça parle de tout ça. Alors viens, on raconte une histoire qui est ramenée dans le Tanya. Il y a l'histoire, je vais dire en anglais. There's a story of a ger. You know what a ger is?
Yeah.
Someone who wants to convert.
Yeah.
Qui est un ger. Un ger.
Hager shebetochecha. Chaque matin, on
Ça, c'est
fait
en
ça.
hébreu.
C'est quoi?
Hager shebetochecha.
Ça veut dire quoi?
Et parce qu'on lit ça chaque matin dans la prière. Alors, ça veut dire qu'il faut accepter et approcher les guerres qui vont devenir vues.
Ah ouais.
Approche-le.
C'est beau.
Alors, il y a un converti, un ger. Ça dit guerre qui voulait se convertir. Pourquoi guerre qui voulait se convertir? Parce qu'il faut savoir qu'un guerre, c'est vraiment un juif qui était né, il a une neshama juif qui était né dans un corps non juif et qui a dû faire le trajet de conversion pour se reconnecter au judaïsme. So this non-Jew or this ger, he came to Rabbi, it's back in the time of the Talmud, it's actually a story in the Talmud. He came to Rabbi Shammai. Rabbi Shammai there was 2 big rabbis. There was Shammai and Hillel. They were 2 opposites. Whatever Shammai said, Hillel said the opposite. Whatever Hillel said, Shammai said the opposite. Until today, they wrote 2 different explanations. Okay? Yeah, and they each had their students. So this ger came to Shammai, and he said, "Can you teach me the whole Torah standing on 1 foot?" And Shammai told him, "Go away. No, I cannot teach you. What do you think? Standing on 1 foot, the whole Torah?" He went to Hillel, and he told Hillel, "Can you teach me the Torah standing on 1 foot?" And Hillel was known to be more loving and more patient. Shammai was more strict, had a different view. You know, they were both right. According to the Torah, they're both right, but they had different perspective on Judaism and on life in general. And Hillel told him, whatever you don't like to be done to you, don't do to others.
That was
The whole Torah, the whole rest of the Torah are commentaries. So whatever you don't like to be done to yourself, don't do to others, which is the same concept of loving the other. If you love the other person, you won't hurt them. Okay? it's a different perspective. Like you said, how do you love someone? By not doing things that you don't like to be done.
What is love?
So according to the Torah,
Yeah.
whatever you don't like to be done to yourself, or whatever you love to be done, obviously, which whenever there's a negative, there's a positive that you
But
can
everyone
understand.
has his own love language, so you're not gonna love
So-
them through their love language, through yours.
But you're gonna be able to do something or not something to someone that you love. If you love to be loved according to your love language, you'll make sure that the other person will be loved through their love language. Or if you don't like someone to bother you, you'll make sure to understand what that person doesn't like. So,
Right.
it's very profound. You can
Yeah.
dig deep. But the point is, the Tanya brings a story and asks the question. First of all, why did Hillel answer? Why did Shammai not answer him? Second of all, what was the ger really asking? And the first question really, what was the ger, this man really asking to learn Torah on 1 foot? What was he asking? Second, why did Shammai not answer him? And why did Hillel give him that answer? Okay, so the Tanya delves a little deep, and this is not actually the answer of the Tanya. I'm going to say the answer of the teacher of the Alter Rebbe. It was super interesting, and then I'll give you what the Alter Rebbe says. The ger, what was he asking? Okay, he heard about, he had this awakening inside of him. He wanted to convert to Judaism. And he was asking, I see that in Torah there's ups and downs, there's challenges, there's that struggle. He said, I don't want the struggle. I only want to stand on 1 foot. I only want to be high, all the time positive, all the time excited, all the time joyful. Teach me the Torah, only the positive part that will keep me always connected, full of love, full of joy. And Shammai said, I'm sorry. In my way of seeing things, you need both. You stand on both feet. You can't learn Torah if you don't want both feet. If you don't want the bad, you can't only have the good. He wanted only the good. So he sent him away. When he came to Hillel understood a little deeper his question, and he answered him, whatever you don't like to be done to you, don't do to others. Just know that the going down, every time a Jewish person goes into darkness or has a challenge or has sadness, it's only to go into that darkness to bring up a light, to bring someone up, and every time they go down and then they go back up, they're able to get out of their darkness, they awaken something. By you, ger, you had your neshama, you were disconnected, you were born as a non-Jew, and when you got that awakening, that means some Jew and the Jewish people just got out of their darkness and they strengthened themselves, and by strengthening themselves they pulled you up and they gave you that awakening where you were able to connect to your neshama. So if you don't want to be stuck in that darkness, don't expect other people to don't do that to others. You were pulled out because of another person. We're all connected. And we need each other, and we need the good times, and we need the bad times. We need to help each other. When someone's down, we need to pull them up. So yes, you want to learn it on 1 foot, but just know it's important. The good and the bad. And the rest of the Torah is just commentary. Why? And this is what the Alter Rebbe says. What's the essence of the Torah? What is the essence of the Torah? The essence of the Torah, and this is what the essence of Tanya, the message, is to transcend physical. It's to be able to connect to your spiritual side. It's to be able to go over your nature and connect to your godly soul. It's to be able to believe in a God that we don't see. It's to be able to believe that we live in this most physical world and there's spiritual that exists. It's to be able to believe that Torah, which seems so old and which seems like such a long time ago, is still alive and so true. It's to be able to believe that inside of us we have a godly soul that is alive, that was always alive, that will never die, and that connects each one of us. So the essence of the Torah is to love your fellow Jew as yourself. Once you connect to your godly soul, you have to love the other person, because the other person is your soul. So that's the essence. How do you get to that essence? Every other mitzvah in the Torah, everything that the Torah writes, is only to help you go above your nature, only to help you disconnect from your evil, your impulses, your that shell that blocks us, and connect to our godly soul. Once you connect to that godly soul, once you're able to see people from a godly, from a soul point of view, you're able to realize that we're all the same.
That's Moshe. Moshe, he took like all Am Israel, like his kids, and Aaron took the peace. He was a peace person. If you take both of them, you have after.
Very interesting. Okay, that's nice. So the
אם ילדתי את העם הזה, always I'm thinking about Moshe, אם ילדתי את העם הזה, did I born these people? Was I born? He was saying, he was asking God. Est-ce que moi, c'est moi qui annonce donné naissance à ce peuple? Ça me revient toujours. ואהבת לרעך כמוך. Voilà, un gars qui a grandi chez Pharaon et regarde qu'est-ce qu'il fait. Et nous, pour nous, c'est dur de...
Because we have, so why is it so hard? And what is love? You said, what is love? It's an art. It's an art. Love is an art. What's the art? Is by being able to remove, it's as if that love is inside of us, really. It's not like you have to
create it.
It's inside, and we have, the art is to be able to remove those things that are blocking us. All those, when I see you, or when I see your body, I don't see you as a soul. Maybe one day I'll be able to. So it's be able to like constantly force yourself that there's more to that person than just what we see. There's more, you know, it's an art. And to be able to, it's a constant battle. It's a constant work. And it says that
so lovers are artists.
Exactly, lovers are artists. And Torah is really, everything that you do in Torah is to be able to help you reach that love that's deep down inside. Now, wait, the Tanya tells you, what if you really, after you learned all this, after you learned that if you connected to your soul part, if you start seeing people as souls and not as body, you'll be able to love them. You still hate. What if you still hate? There's certain people you can't stand.
Haters will always hate.
Okay,
sure.
And this is a very pertinent thing today, because the 9 days, I don't know if you guys know what il y a les 9 jours maintenant. Les 9 jours, c'est les 9 jours de la destruction du temple. What was the reason? Do you know why the temple was destroyed?
Because Talmudim, Rabbi Akiva, they were talking.
Not just Talmudim, but because of Sinat Chinam. Because in the Jewish people,
everything happened at the same
there was
time.
free hate, a lot of hate. Okay, and there's a story. What is hate? I'll tell you a story, and that is portrays the hate. There's you probably heard it, right? My husband just said it in his class on Wednesday, but I'll say it because it's very pertinent. There's Kamsa and Bar Kamsa.
C'est quoi?
Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. There's two people. One person was named Kamsa, and one person was Bar Kamsa. Okay, they were two different people. I might confuse who was, but okay, there was a very wealthy person. I forgot his name. He made a big party. And he invited all his friends. Now he had one enemy, was Kamsa. I think it was Kamsa. Bar Kamsa was his enemy? Okay, Bar Kamsa was his enemy, sorry. He told his servant, go invite everyone besides Bar Kamsa, don't invite him. By mistake, his servant got confused like me about the name, and instead of bringing the invitation to Kamsa, he brought it to Bar Kamsa. Bar Kamsa happened to be also someone very low life, very, not the best person. But he said, wow, he invited me. I'm so touched. I guess he wants to make peace, So he comes to the party, and at the party, there's everyone there, and this rich man sees him, And he says, excuse me, what are you doing here in front of everyone? And he says, look, do me a favor. I'll pay you for the whole party. Just don't throw me out in front of everyone. Don't embarrass me. But this man doesn't care. That's hate, okay? That's full hate. He throws him out of the party in a shameful way. And Bar Kamsa was so hurt, okay? This is hate. I mean, you don't need it's when you make a person, I don't know if it came from arrogance, because then there's a whole explanation on this story where it came from, because this rich man happened to be a good guy, but he couldn't stand that person. Just that person, he couldn't stand him. That person, Bar Kamsa, happened to be also very low life. I mean, you'll see what he did in the end to take revenge. Okay, that means he also wasn't a good person. It's not, he went to the Romans and he told them that the Jewish people, I forgot what story he made up, but he created a whole story about bringing a korban, that they're not going to accept your thing. Anyways, he created a story that caused the Romans to destroy the temple because of him. Okay, the story exactly. I don't want to say it wrong, so I think I know it is, but I don't want to say it wrong. But the point is, because of him being ashamed and hated by this wealthy man, he went and he brought the destruction of the people of the temple and killings of thousands and thousands of Jews. So he wasn't any better, okay?
Mais qui raconte cette histoire?
Elle est écrite c'est une histoire très connue. It's written. This was the reason the Bet HaMikdash. But this story just represents, unfortunately, there was a lot of hating going on. Okay, and even sometimes the hating, this wealthy person, let's say, had a good excuse. That person, Bar Kamsa, happened to be a really not a good person. He did a lot of sins. He whatever he did, he had an excuse to hate him. Okay, but it brought about the destruction. What does the Tanya tell you? What if there's someone you can't stand? Okay, you see someone constantly cheating people and lying and those people who are two-faced. They're like one hypocrite. All these things that you have a good reason not to like. Okay, if you hate someone for no reason, that's horrible. That's an issue. But I'm talking when you have a reason to hate. What do?
You ignore.
Why should you ignore? Ignoring is never a good. On n'a pas dit battre. The Torah says to love. We're talking about someone who wants to keep the mitzvah of V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. We're talking about Benoni who really. But the Torah tells you should love every single Jew just like yourself. You don't have to. I'm just saying we're talking about a Benoni. Remember, the Tanya was written for the Benoni, who's the champion of the champion, who was able to conquer his thought, speech, and action fully to the point that he never sins. So this is instructions for him. From that, we could always learn from them because we're striving always to be better. So what if we see someone, and what if it's someone in your family who's insupportable? What do you do? What does the Tanya tell you?
What are you doing? Tell me.
The Tanya tells you, when you connect to your soul, and you understand that person really has a godly soul, a beautiful, perfect, a beautiful, perfect soul that is trapped in their body and so dark that they can't access it. You hate their actions that you should hate. You hate the way they're acting. You hate the way their animal soul and their body is behaving. But you love them anyways. And in this story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, this wealthy man, even if he had a good reason to hate him because he really despised that person, he did a lot of bad things. But he should have kept him. He should have respected him just for being a Jew and having his godly soul trapped inside his body to the point that he can't connect to it. And if he would have kept him and not shamed him, okay, even if he doesn't love him, he hates the way he acts, but he has a certain respect because he knows he's a Jew. the destruction of the Bet Hamikdash wouldn't have happened.
C'est
Well, that's what-
autre chose qui
No,
aurait
so,
détruit le peuple.
The point is, no,
Attends.
c'est pas moi qui invente ça.
Quoi? Non, mais même lui, c'est quoi le rapport?
No, but
Si c'est pas ça, ça aurait pu être autre chose.
if God wanted to destroy, no, but if God, but God, this story was brought because that was what destroyed the Bet Hamikdash.
Parce que
God-
Dieu l'a voulu, non?
Mais pourquoi il a voulu?
Pourquoi?
Parce que les gens, ils n'ont pas su s'aimer. Il a compris que moi, wherever there's people that don't love themselves, that don't love each other, God cannot reside. And he could, the Bet HaMikdash is God's presence, an open presence in the world. He couldn't be in the world anymore because there was so much hatred.
So regarding what you just explained right now, is it correct if someone that you really don't feel honnête and like someone that is double-faced and someone, so well, you just hate his actions, his behavior, but you still love him, meaning tu vas le tolérer. Ça veut pas
No,
dire
we
tu vas
didn't say
l'aimer.
tolerate.
what
If
is
we would
that?
tolerate, we
Because-
would ignore his action. That would be ignored. That means tolerate.
Alors que tu fais
But you
ce genre de
hate, I
personne.
don't like what you're doing. I don't, you
Okay.
stick up, you stick up and you say what you don't like and you see,
Okay.
and you believe that inside that person still has a godly soul and still has a
Bien sûr,
perfect.
every human.
No, bien sûr, a lot of
Moi,
people,
chaque humain
why
se
did-
voit avec du bon. Alors,
Okay,
Hitler,
maybe
il est
you're-
monstre.
maybe you're an exception, but most
Ah,
people,
tu arrêtes.
most people,
I
I'm
don't
not,
see everyone like.
I wish I
good
did.
soul.
I wish I did. No, I'm not there yet. But how many times do we see family members, the minute their family did something bad, they don't speak to each other for years?
Absolutely.
How many times? That means that they're not looking beyond. They're looking at one dimension. You did this to me, that's it. I'm not talking to
Il y
you
a beaucoup
anymore.
d'ego.
So here the Tanya teaches you
Ouais, ouais.
that person hate their action and tell them why you don't like their action, but you love them anyways.
Mélange les deux. Il y a pas de, ou alors on
It's a hate love relationship. I hate the way you act.
Dans la pratique,
I hate
c'est
the way
très dur
you're-
à faire.
It's a very hard, but it's something that at least brings you awareness that no matter what, you should love every single Jew. You should know that there's good inside every
Alors,
single
pour
Jew.
ça, je le pense réellement parce que, par exemple, je suis quelqu'un qui a un cœur très blanc. I will forgive right away. Pourquoi? Parce que je me dis, la personne, au fond, c'est sûr, elle est égale à moi, à toi, à elle. On est tous égaux, bien
So
sûr.
maybe you see people from a soul point of view.
Mais ça m'empêche pas
I have a
de
hard
les
time sometimes.
détester. Des fois, il y a des gens que je supporte pas ou quelqu'un qui vient de me prendre le cerveau. I have a hard time with them, but at the end, I will
So that's where the Tanya tells you you're allowed to hate them, but don't hate them for who they really are. Hate them for their actions. Hate them for their animal impulses that they can. C'est ça. I think it's a very healthy separation.
Ça veut dire que tu gardes
Très bien.
jamais de rancœur, jamais rien qui reste à l'intérieur, en fait.
C'est difficile, but it's so healthy. I think it's
Je
healthy.
pense que c'est libérateur de ne pas avoir de rancœur.
For
C'est
sure.
évident,
Mais
parce que
ouais.
Alors,
c'est celui qui
comment
garde
on
la
fait la
rancœur.
paix avec
voilà.
une chose pareille? C'est ça la question.
So how to make peace? Yes. Okay. Let's hear what Leah has to say.
Alors, il faut.
It's a work. It's a I think the way and not.
Comment tu peux la paix? Comment tu vas faire la paix avec une personne comme ça?
Comme
Alors, tu vas partir et lui dire.
qui, par
écoute,
exemple?
Une personne que tu aimes pas.
Ouais.
Tu aimes pas. Tu
Ouais.
le
n'aimes pas
détestes,
ses
tu
actions.
aimes pas.
Ouais,
Tu
ouais.
peux pas s'approcher à lui.
C'est
Alors,
trop
qu'est-ce que tu fais?
satisfaisant.
C'est quoi la réponse?
Après, we don't say you need to be friends with them. You just need to love. You can love them in their heart, in your heart.
Absolutely.
À l'intérieur.
C'est pas la haine.
Tu
It's
sais,
not.
il y a des gens, excuse-moi, je te reviens tout de suite parce que ça vient de me faire esprit. Il y a des gens qui ont souffert la mort de leurs propres parents ou familles, qui se sont fait abuser, Et dans toutes les thérapies, ils te disent, tu veux guérir, tu veux avancer, donne le pardon. Et le pardon, c'est
Mais
quoi?
c'est
C'est de
quoi
voir
le
le
pardon?
good in the other. C'est
But
pour ça
what
que
is it? But this
c'est
is
de voir
exactly.
l'autre à travers des
See,
sangs.
when you understand that abusive parent, let's say an abusive parent, it's just their action. It's not really, they're trapped
But still,
within their impulses. I'm not giving excuses. I'm not giving
That's
excuses. It's a work.
des
Dans
abuseurs
des
et
cas
tout.
comme ça,
C'est
c'est
des
difficile.
Mais
For sure.
quelqu'un qui a
For
tué,
sure,
quelqu'un,
for
tu
sure.
dois le voir. Il y a des choses.
We can. I'm not saying I feel that way. Si quelqu'un m'a fait du mal ou à mon enfant,
C'est ça,
Donc,
c'est dur.
but the Tanya is giving us the top. Okay, the top, a work that has to be done in order to be able, first of all, to heal and to be a healthy person. Okay, because whatever the Tanya gives us is to be a healthy person, healthy spiritually and physically, is to be able to work on yourself, to connect to your godly soul, to keep on connecting to your godly soul, and understanding that that person who you hate so much is not connected to their godly soul, but you love their godly soul. You hate that darkness that they used against you, but they're disconnected. So you're able to disconnect the real true person, and you wish to know who that true person is and to connect to that true person is. But you hate that evil that completely took over them to hurt you.
Et je suis sûre que si tu y penses, il n'y a personne que tu détestes vraiment. Tu vois, il faut être vraiment mal avec soi-même et ne pas s'aimer soi-même pour
No, there's some people that hate. No, sorry. There are people that hate, especially, like you said, if they were abused.
Des juifs, des gens juifs.
For sure, sweetie. A bit innocent. Yeah,
Non,
unfortunately.
je sais qu'il y a des juifs pas corrects.
Unfortunately, non, mais il y a des gens qui se détestent. Yes, especially when they live in communities, it unfortunately could create a lot of competition, a lot of things. You know, there's stories, whether it's in business, you know, if one cheated the other. I'm saying there could be, but what the Tanya teaches us is, first of all, that we're all one soul. And we have to work constantly every day. It's an everyday work to constantly connect to our soul, to be able to see people as all the same soul. So that's one work. What happens when someone you really can't connect to, you really can't see, you really hate, or for whatever reason, then hate, yes, you're allowed to hate, but their actions. You're allowed to hate what they did and how but not them as a person, because they have a godly soul, and it's like hating your hand for cutting yourself. Are you going to hate your hand for cutting yourself? No. You know, you can't hate yourself. Doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Il y a beaucoup de rabbins qui disent tu envoies des bonnes pensées à l'autre, et ça revient à toi et ça te calme.
Ça, c'est
et à
très
la
juste.
fin, c'est une healing.
So I read
Parce que l'autre que tu détestes souvent, c'est parce qu'il souffre lui-même. Il souffre, sinon il ne ferait pas des choses
mal. Commence à lui envoyer des bons messages.
So I read a whole article.
Like send good words.
Tellement, ça j'aime beaucoup ça.
I actually read a whole article about Simon Jacobson, who writes about parents who are abusive and that you have to cut them off of their relationship, which is healthy. How do you still fulfill the mitzvah of respecting and honoring your parents? So they said that by giving a time during your day just to pray for them, or and feel bad for them being who, you know, that can bring healing to yourself and to them. So which makes me think that's what loving a person is. There's a person who did harm, who you have to keep away, but how do you love them, especially when they're close to you, you know? You pray for them. You pray for them. So thank you, Leah, for that. That's exactly.
If I may say something about that, I personally had to get away from my mother because she was abusive, and I would have died. But it took me a while to learn to love her. But at some point in my life, I understood, especially when I had my daughter, I understood that having been raised with so much abuse, I had this ingrained inside of me, and I was ready to be a hard mother on my child. And when I realized that there was something inside of me was like wanting to be violent and all that kind of thing, was like, whoa, psychologist right away. You're not going to do to your child what
was done to you.
And what helped me a lot was to realize that before my parents became abusers, especially my mom, she was abused herself.
Ouais.
And that I was going, if I didn't get help, I was going to be abused.
So do you see how you can separate your mother and why she was abusive? That's exactly. And I think that's very healthy of you, that you were able to see that separation. It's really separating from that evil that we have within us. Evil, again, could be the extreme where you abuse someone, or it could be anything that's self-centered, that's selfless, that's selfish, By separating that and by connecting to your godly soul and by being able to separate in other people, they're acting that way, but they have that good inside of them. And I want to connect to the good inside of them, not to the bad. This can help you for your kids, okay? Because we won't lie. Not every kid you'll love naturally, but not every kid you'll like. That means not every kid you'll be like, oh my God, like some kids will get you nervous. Some kids will be easier to connect to than others. Okay. And by connecting to their good side constantly and removing those outside things that can bother you, okay, those body by being, this can make sure that you don't, first of all, create preferences or create distance from kids that you love naturally.
Also, I would say realizing that we are no better, because I realized at some point I was no better than my mother, because I had this.
We all have our impulses, yes.
To be to hurt, like I had been hurt. So it was, and that was not me. I spent my whole childhood thinking I'm never going to do to anybody else what's been done to me. And
beautiful. Look, it's just what the Tanya said.
And
don't do to others what you don't want them to be yourself. That's exactly that. But that's what he answered him. Wow, look at that.
But when you've been abused, there is something, colère, anger inside of you that wants you to pushes you to,
This gives me the chills. You just made me understand something so big.
I had to break that chain of abuse, pattern of abuse coming from generation to
generation.
How did you switch it to love? Because you said, I love my mother.
Yeah.
Yes, through healing. That means she healed. And do you see how she said it naturally? She didn't want to do to her child what was done to her.
Right.
This is the message of the Tanya, of this parak, that everything that was done bad to us, whether we like it or not, will be passed down. All through generations, things were passed down. By being able to be aware of that we're passing on no matter what, okay? Anything you see bad in other people, usually you have within. That's also another thing that the Baal Shem Tov. Whenever you see something in another person that really bothers you, that's negative, that triggers you something, usually you have it inside of you. How do you make sure not to pass it on to make sure not to do it, right? Someone hurt you, you don't want to hurt another person, is by being aware of that and by stopping yourself, by not, like she said, she was aware, she stopped herself, she healed, okay, she went through a psychologist, there's different method of healing, because automatically you're going to be doing what you see bad in others, you'll do to others. And by stopping yourself and healing, this is how you make sure not to pass it to the next generation or to the next, that was amazing. What you just said was like a real example of what we're talking about. So to be aware, I think the biggest awareness of what we have of our strength and our weakness, and to always connect to our godly soul and know that the more we connect to our godly soul, and through Torah and Mitzvot, this is what the whole Torah and Mitzvot is, only to help us connect to our godly soul, we can be better person and more loving and more kinder. So yes, this is the class of this week. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.